Hey guys, so this is going to be a review for We the Drowned by Carsten Jensen, an epic Danish historical fiction novel. We the Drowned surrounds this town called Marstal, this seafaring town, over the time span of 100 years, from 1848 to 1945. This is really the story of Marstal, a Danish town on the island of Aro, and its people. We follow many different characters as the story passes itself from character to character over many different generations seamlessly. At the start, we are met with a man named Lord Madsen, who, after surviving a war with the Germans thanks to his boots, goes off on this unknown voyage and disappears and never comes back to Marstal. His son Albert sets off to find his father, and on the way comes across devious ship captains and first mates, shrunken heads, terrifying island natives, and a profoundly dangerous sea that could swallow him up at any time if it wanted to. Following Albert and many other characters from Marstal, we follow these people from World War I all the way through World War II. As the world grows up, Marstal must move forward with it. There are those who wish Marstal to grow in a different direction, one that doesn't rely on the sea or ships or their sons becoming sailors. Because yes, while there is exciting adventure and the thrill of the unknown, with a sense that what they're doing is what is most profitable for this town, what is most prosperous for its people, there's also immense danger. Men lost to sea all too often, wives and children left alone back home, men lost to war and to recklessness, and once again that unforgiving sea that could swallow you, take you, and drown you, leaving those back home without even a body to mourn for as they fill up their cemeteries with more and more empty graves. This is really a beautiful book, a story of the sea, of ships and captains and sailors and adventure, but also of war and of life and death, and a story about what it's like to grow up fatherless, as many Marstal children do, and a story of home. The characters are all very well written. They're believable, engaging, and real. The story is very much character driven. I know it sounds like there's a whole lot of really exciting things going on, but the story really focuses on its characters more than anything. It focuses on the characters' lives, life at sea, and the life of this town as a whole. We follow a few different kinds of people, sailors, children that dream of growing up to become sailors, widowed mothers. I mean, we follow the growth of characters in some instances from childhood till death. The story passing to a new generation as the older generation begins to raise them. They're all very different people, very dynamic. They can be both cruel and kind, spiteful and forgiving, incredible and yet extremely ordinary, deadly and calm, kind of like the sea itself. Albert was probably my favorite character. Following his adventures is exciting, following his thoughts is intriguing, and watching him grow and become the man that he becomes is a really interesting thing to see. And seeing all of that development throughout the story just made him a really interesting character to read about, made him a lot of fun to read about. There's this character called Clara, who is like a young widow and the mother of a boy who Albert kind of becomes like a father figure to this widow's son, and the widowed mother, Clara, is one of the most interesting characters in the book. She hates the sea for taking her husband. She hates the thought of her son wanting to become just like her father, possibility of losing her son to the sea as well. Yet she lets Albert kind of take her son under his wing, and she eventually goes on to own a bunch of ships. But she wants Marstal as a whole to go in a different direction. She wants it to separate itself from the sea and kind of separate itself from how much it's been relying on the sea all of these years. She hates that they rely so heavily on it that they lose so much to it. Some say that she has Marstal's best interest in mind, while others would say that she's nuts for thinking the way she does, that she dooms them all with having the thoughts that she does. The writing in the story is just beautiful. It's a translation from Danish, a translation into English, and nothing of Carsten Jensen's beautiful writing is lost, at least not noticeably. It's still very, very nice to read. Every scene has this vividness to it. It paints a picture of Marstal, of the sea. It paints like a picture of Marstal and of certain characters, of a certain adventure or ship or place in the world that they go to the point where you just become completely engrossed into what is going on in the story. The book is long, almost 700 pages, pretty thick, and drags a little in some places, but at the same time, the entirety of the book is a lot like the parts that drag. There's just a certain need to slow down towards like the middle in order to properly pass the story on. The perspective that the story is written in is very unique. It's really interesting, and the book is mostly told from this unseen narrator, we. Like, we did this. We saw that Albert went to the sea, and we went with him. We is everywhere. We are everywhere. And it isn't always clear what that we is supposed to represent. We the drowned, we the town of Marstal, we the readers, we the ones partaking in the story, or all of the above. I think that aspect of the book is really, really successful because it's just such an interesting perspective to see things from. At first it doesn't seem weird at all. You kind of feel like you're there with the characters, and then you kind of realize more and more as time goes on that this we is still present, and we don't know who we is. Wherever the characters go, we go with them. It's also at one point told from Albert's first person perspective, and then at other points it can be told from a regular third person perspective, but the vast majority is told from this we perspective. I really, really like this book a lot. I give it 5 out of 5 stars, and I really recommend it to anyone that any of that sounds interesting to. It's a lot of fun to read. Characters were a lot of fun, everything. This book had a lot of really great humor to it as well, which I thought was really surprising. I didn't know how it would translate from Danish to English, but the humor is still there. There's still a lot of really great humor, a lot of really beautiful writing, and just everything about it is really well done, and I really liked it a lot. And I think you would too if you gave it a shot. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon with more.